TIFU by sending my paper to the wrong printer at school. This happened many years ago when I was in 5th grade. I used to spend much of my class time doodling and writing random stories in my notebook. At one point I created a series of short stories revolving around fictional kids in a fictional classroom that did stupid things that got them into trouble. The stories were very loosely inspired by Diary of a Wimpy Kid. It was juvenile humor, like the kids swearing at teachers or farting. There were two common themes among these stories. Every single one has an alliteration for a title, i.e., Bob the Bozo and Zachary the Zany, and the character is expelled at the end. The stories were a bit crude. There was toilet humor and some light cartoon violence, but nothing super excessive. I didn't even use actual swear words. Just symbols. What the at hash. To mimic profanities. A buddy of mine who found these hilarious dubbed the series, "The Pathetic Kids in My Class." He wanted to write one as a guest writer. So I let him and told him I'd include it in the collection when I typed them all up someday. He wrote a story called Fenton the Farticus, about a kid who had an incident with beans in the cafeteria that got so bad the school had to be evacuated. Now for the foo. I used to go to an after-school childcare program called Kids Club since both my parents worked late. This program took place at the school closest to my house, but I didn't actually go to that school. I was in a gifted program. So I was bused to another school in the district for class, and I'd take the bus back to the school by my house and stay for the after-school program. I was bored there one day and had 6 stories on me, including Fenton the Farticus, and decided to finally type and print out the collection. I included a cover page with the title, "The Pathetic Kids in My Class," with a crossed-out brain and a random clip art face introducing itself as the narrator that will tell the reader about all of the pathetic kids in his class. My real mistake was putting my full name and friend's name as the authors of the story. I tried printing it, but the printer in the classroom I was in would not print my story. I shrugged it off as the printer being messed up yet again and forgot about it. A week later, my friend and I were called down to the principal's office. The principal placed a photocopy of the collection in front of us and asked us about it. Apparently, some teacher found the printed collection, looked up our names in the district's database, and mailed the collection to my school's principal. The principal told us that the stories were extremely inappropriate, and that they were demeaning to other students. He accused us of bullying because one of the stories was called Max the Moron, and there was a kid in my class named Max. I explained to the principal that the characters were all purely fictional and any resemblance to any real people was coincidental. And this kid Max in my class was actually one of my friends, so the story wasn't even aimed at him. I also told the principal that this was my work and my friend had only written one of the stories. And it was all my fault as I had typed and printed it. We were dismissed, but I was frustrated that the principal didn't believe my explanation that the characters were fictional. 2 days later, my parents got a manila envelope in the mail from my elementary school with the collection of stories, with a signed letter from the principal paperclipped to the front. The letter explained the situation and said that though we claimed the characters were fictitious, the after-school program staff would be reviewing the stories, and if they were found to be about any kids in the program, we could get in more serious trouble and potentially lose computer privileges. My parents did not believe me that the characters were fictional and grounded me for an entire weekend. Fortunately, my dad believed me that this was mostly my doing and called my friend's dad and convinced him that he was innocent. I thought these stories were long gone. As I dug through several boxes of old school stuff one day when I was bored during the pandemic but couldn't find them. To my surprise, while I was home this past Christmas, I found my report cards from elementary school, and the collection along with the principal's note was there. I read through the stories and they weren't as funny or creative as I remembered them being. But I couldn't help but laugh at how absurd the scenarios were and how any teacher could have concluded that the stories were based on real students. There's only 6 stories in the collection and I know I had at least a dozen more handwritten somewhere, but unfortunately those are presumably lost to time. I'm hoping they resurface someday. TL. Doctor. Typed up stories about fictional kids getting into trouble. Accidentally sent to wrong printer. School administration thought the stories were based on real students. Got in trouble for bullying. Edit. I took photos of the stories, censored identifying information, and posted them on my profile. See link below for the album. https www.reddit.com/user/mission5pace5tation/comments/13gjn0p/the pathetic kids in my class. Can we get some pics of these stories? Show me what you got. GIF. It sounds like the Wayside School, serieshttps://en.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/wayside school. As a teacher, I can guarantee it wasn't the bizarre, unrealistic content they thought related to the kids. But they were concerned about the titles, especially as you named the collection, The Pathetic Kids. In my class, you then went on to name individual stories, things like Max the Moron, Bob the Bozo, Zach the Zany, Fenton the Farticus. I can imagine the others weren't complimentary either, with some actually being the names of kids in your class. As an adult, surely you can see how easy this would have been to mistake this as name-calling taken to the extreme. The fact that you didn't get into more trouble probably means they did believe you to an extent. It's a shame they didn't recognize and encourage your creativity in a way that would definitely not cause offense, though, by changing the titles or using made-up names. For example, funny story.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.